Have you been on the DC Metro? What's the first thing that comes to mind when you think of the Metro? Chances are it may be the cool stations. Many stations look something like this. The large vaulted ceilings and the brutalist architecture make even the underground stations seem spacious. Most DC Metro stations look very similar to each other. The same design was often repeated over and over. But there are a few stations that do their own thing, so to speak. Today we are going for a ride on the Metro Green Line, which has several of those stations with a unique design. Hey everyone, welcome to a brand new Trains Are Awesome video. I'm Tom and I am at College Park, University of Maryland Station here in Prince George's County, Maryland. This of course is on the DC Metro Green Line, and today I want to take you for a ride on the Green Line, but first let's kind of check out College Park Station and check out the area. College Park is served by the Green Line, and I know that all the signs also say yellow. The yellow line used to run all the way up to Greenbelt together with the Green Line, but not too long ago it was shortened to Mount Vernon Square. Besides the Metro, College Park is also served by the Mark-Camden Line, an unelectrified commuter rail that provides service between DC and Baltimore during rush hours. It's so funny because you've got the tiny little rinky-dink Mark station that sees a few trains a day right next to the big modern Metro station. Such a contrast. So what is there to do around College Park? Well, for one, you can visit the Aviation Museum, which is here probably because nearby you can find the oldest continuously used airport in the world. Another thing you could do is take the free University of Maryland shuttle to the University of Maryland. Now you might think, why would I do that? Isn't it just another state school? And you're right, it is, though it does have a barn with horses. But what I think is cool about U of MD is that it has such a large bus network. It's included on the official Metro bus maps, and there are quite a few routes that you can ride without a university ID. It really is like a small city transit system. The Shuttle UM is housed under the university's Department of Transportation Services, and while there are several professional drivers, a lot of the drivers are also college students who get the opportunity to earn their commercial driver's license through this program. If you'd like to know more about Shuttle UM, just let me know in the comments, and maybe someday I'll make a separate video about it. Finally, for those interested in construction or just generally excited about the future, you can take a look at the preparations that are being made for the Purple Line. The Purple Line is a light rail line that is under construction and will run between Bethesda and New Carrollton in Maryland, forming half a loop between the ends of several Metro lines. It will include a stop at College Park, and while riding the shuttle earlier, I noticed that some of the tracks have already been laid. The state of Maryland anticipates that the Purple Line will open in late 2027. Unfortunately, it wouldn't surprise me if it ends up being even later than that. Anyways, back to the Green Line. So yeah, this is College Park Station. I'm very excited one day to ride the Purple Line from here. One day, it'll happen. But for now, let's hop on a Green Line train and head to Greenbelt, just one station north, which is the terminus of the Green Line. Alright, so this is Greenbelt Station, end of the Green Line, but don't worry, only the beginning of the video. Kind of funny that the terminus of the Green Line is called Greenbelt. Once again, you can transfer to Mark here. The Mark station actually looks a little bit more like a train station and a little bit less like some washed up driftwood. And the distance between College Park and Greenbelt, it's not super far, but it's not very short either. And in between the two stations, there is a section of triple track. I believe it's the longest triple track section on the entire DC Metro, and that third middle track is used to test trains as well as store maintenance equipment whenever there's construction. What you'll notice about Greenbelt Station is that it looks almost identical to College Park Station. And that's a big thing with the DC Metro. Because all of it was built relatively recently, a lot of it is built in the same style. There's this really great article written by a guy named Matt Johnson for the website Greater Washington. The article is about 10 years old, but when I moved to DC, a lot of friends sent me that link, like, hey, you should check this out. And basically what it does is it organizes all the different architectural styles on the Washington Metro, and it divides them into categories. So in his article, Matt Johnson basically divides the stations into 11 categories. For your underground stations, you have what he calls the waffle tube, which is your basic underground station that is probably the most famous. And then there's the Arch 1 and Arch 2 styles, which are slightly newer, simplified tubes. Finally, there's the twin tube style used on some of the really deep stations on the Red Line, where each track gets its own tube. For the outdoor stations, you have your Gull 1 style, his name for the wavy concrete roof, and a more modern version called Gull 2. There's the General Peak, which is a super common outdoor station style, the Special Alexandria Peak used at the two stations in Old Town Alexandria, the towering High Peak design, and then the Tyson's Peak and Gambrel designs used on the Silver Line. And of course, to every rule, there are some exceptions. So there are several metro stations throughout the system that don't follow one of these templates. It just so happens that the Green Line has quite a few of those unique stations, so that's what we're going to do in today's video. We're just going to travel down the Green Line from Greenbelt all the way south and check out all the unique station designs.
Step back, doors closing.
While we're on the train, let's take a quick look at the line. The Green Line runs from Greenbelt in Prince George's County, Maryland, through Washington, D.C., and then back into Prince George's County to terminate at Branch Avenue. Its total length is 23 miles or 37 kilometers, and it briefly shares tracks with the Yellow Line. The line from Gallery Place to Waterfront was built in the 1970s. Though most of it was used by the Yellow Line when that opened in 1983, Waterfront Station sat abandoned for almost a decade. Construction of the rest of the Green Line began in the 1980s, but for years, WMATA found itself embroiled in a heated battle with Congress and President Reagan over funding. Local businesses, residents, and governments also sued, boycotted, and protested the construction. And at one point, even one of the contractors got fired. But finally, in 1991, the Green Line opened from U Street down to Anacostia. In 1993, a second section opened from Fort Totten to Greenbelt. Certain rush hour trains began operating from Greenbelt onto the Red Line to provide access into downtown. The two segments were united in 1999, and in 2001, the full line to Branch Avenue opened. Alright, so this is Hyattsville Crossing Station. I believe it used to be called Prince George's Plaza Station. Yes, that massive structure on top of the tracks is a parking lot. Plenty of suburban metro stations have large parking garages nearby, but having it on top like this is what makes Hyattsville Crossing so unique. Combined with the fact that the tracks are also kind of dug into a trench, it creates a very impressive effect. This is easily one of my favorite stations on the Metro.
Step back, doors closing.
West Hyattsville is also listed as a station with a unique design in the article. When you look at the canopy crossing the tracks, you can kinda see why. Those flat-top concrete beams are unique to this location. The Greater Washington website lists this as one of the stations with a unique design as well. Yeah, I can see it. Like, that's definitely not at any other station, but also it's not super cool or impressive in my opinion. Let's go check out the rest of the station. So the concourse down here feels very open and spacious, which kind of gives the whole area a pleasant atmosphere in my opinion. Oh, look at this escalator. Is that green because it's dirty, or is that the design? I think it's dirt. Our next stop is Fort Totten. Along the way, we cross the border into Washington, D.C. The Green Line platforms were literally built into a hill. What that means is that the western half of the platform is underground, looking very similar to other underground stations, but halfway through the platform, we see that sunlight appears, and the remaining platform is outdoors. I just love the contrast. Fort Totten is another one of my favorites. And there's even more reasons why this is a great station. If we take the escalator up from the platform, we arrive at the mezzanine. Up another escalator and we find ourselves on the red line platforms. Fort Totten provides a transfer between the red and green lines. Having a transfer station between two different lines that's not downtown is pretty rare for any metro system in North America. It's definitely a strength of the DC Metro. So I really can't overemphasize just how important having a station like Fort Totten is. See, a lot of American rail systems are kind of set up in a way where they're really good at getting you from suburbs into downtown. The Chicago L is a great example of that. All these lines that, come together in the loop. But what that means is that when you're making a crosstown trip, if you have to transfer from one line to the other, you usually have to make a detour into downtown and then back out of the city again. But having a station like Fort Totten, a transfer station that's not downtown, means that for certain crosstown trips, your trip is a lot shorter. The next two stations are Georgia Avenue Petworth and Columbia Heights. Both opened in 1999 and look fairly standard at platform level. They do have these cool street level entrances that you don't really see anywhere else. The Columbia Heights ones are especially cool because they have this stained glass trim. It's part of the Art in Transit project. Almost every Green Line station has artwork in it. In this video, I'm focusing on architecture, so I won't showcase every piece of art that we could encounter on our trip today. But if you'd like to see a video all about art on the Metro, just let me know in the comments. Another reason why I like Columbia Heights is just because there's a Lidl, a Target, and practically every chain restaurant you could imagine. And you know what? Sometimes when Dave's Hot Chicken calls you, you just have to answer. And I'm not embarrassed about that. We're going to skip over the next few stations, mostly because they all have fairly standard designs. We'll get off at Mount Vernon Square. So this is Mount Vernon Square Station. Now architecturally, it's not that special. There are plenty of stations that look like this on the system, but operationally, it's a little bit interesting. From here, south to L'Enfant Plaza, the Green Line will share tracks with the Yellow Line, meaning that this is the northern terminus of the Yellow Line. This middle part of the Green Line has a few stations with insanely long names. Think of U Street African American Civil War Memorial Cardozo, or Mount Vernon Square 7th Street Convention Center. Like I mentioned earlier, there was a time where the Yellow Line ran all the way to Greenbelt, but today they turn around on a stub track in the tunnel just north of Mount Vernon Square Station. The next station is Gallery Place, Chinatown. This is the second and last transfer station to the Red Line. Gallery Place once again has a fascinating layout. On the very bottom floor, there's a north-south island platform serving the green and yellow lines. But then, if you go up one level, you'll find two side platforms going from east to west that serve the red line. The station isn't laid out in a cross shape, but more like a sideways T shape, with the escalators connecting to the green and yellow lines on the very eastern end of the red line platforms. Passengers transferring from green to red should be careful to take the escalator to the correct side of the red line, since otherwise you'll have to go either over or under the red line tracks again to get to the right side. Gallery Place also has this slightly hidden exit that has no staff member by the fare gates. It's one of only a few unmanned entrances on the entire system, but there are plenty of cameras to compensate. So this is Archives Navy Memorial Penn Quarter, the last of the stations with the insanely long names. And if you come here at the entrance and you think to yourself, did the wall just like melt? Nope, this is just another art installation right here on the Metro. This sculpture is called Ocean Peace, and it was created by Jorge Martin, a Portuguese artist, in 1995. Two poems flank either side of it. This particular video clip was filmed in November of 2023. The train is wearing a special commemorative wrap for Veterans Day. Stay tuned for a video very soon about the special cherry blossom wrap. L'Enfant Plaza is next. This is where 5 out of 6 metro lines come together. Green and yellow line trains use the top floor with 2 side platforms. Downstairs, there's an island platform for the blue, orange, and silver lines. L'Enfant is laid out in a cross shape, and it makes where the 2 waffle tubes come together so impressive. There's just something so incredibly awe-inspiring about standing at a busy station like this and just being able to see and hear trains on different levels. Waterfront and Navy Yard stations once again have fairly standard designs, although an interesting fact about Navy Yard Station is because it's so close to the ballpark and the famous racing presidents, the fare gates are actually located right at the entrance instead of down by the mezzanine, which helps with crowd control. A fun fact is that the building that the entrance is located in didn't always used to exist. It was built later, and then the metro entrance was just incorporated into it.
Doors open.
As you can probably tell, this is not like other DC Metro stations. I mean, it sort of is. Basically what they did is they took the long tube, chopped it up like a sushi roll, and then put the little pieces side by side. Why did they do that? Were the engineers just feeling something different? Not quite. See, the water table here at Anacostia is so shallow that there simply was not enough space to build the traditional tube that we see at most of the other underground stations. To still have some of the vault effect, they decided to build these little perpendicular arches instead, and I think that it creates a really cool effect. So now we just rode the very last section of the Green Line. Very green outside and quite long distances between the stations, but all the stations on this section have more common designs. Congress Heights just has one of your typical underground designs. Southern Avenue, Suitland, and Branch Avenue have that really impressive like high peak design, and Naylor Road has a more classic general peak. Of course, all the stations do kind of have their own defining features. For example, Southern Avenue has really cool artwork above the staircase. I believe Naylor Road won a prize by the Portland Cement Association, so good for you. And then Suitland has beautiful blossoms. If you come in the spring, definitely check out the trees around the station. Anyways, we've been on the entire Green Line now. Thank you so much for coming along for the ride. Hyattsville Crossing, West Hyattsville, Fort Totten, and Anacostia have truly unique designs that you can't see anywhere else on the Metro. I don't know if I can pick which one is my favorite. Well, at least I know it's not West Hyattsville, but any of the other three, they're all great for their own reason. Anyways, do you have a favorite DC Metro station? Or is there a station where you live that has really cool architecture? Let me know in the comments. Thank you so much for watching today. If you enjoy this video and want to watch more train and transit themed content, then subscribe to Trains Are Awesome. We'll see you next time.